Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Liane Moriarty is one of those authors whose books you see everywhere. Not just bookstores, but big box stores too. Target, Walmart, Costco. Her latest book is called Here One Moment. And what's interesting to me is that the premise, if it were written by nearly any other author, would be packaged and sold at those big box stores as if it were a horror book. But because she's so closely tied to the genre of women's fiction, or chick lit, if you will, her books get presented in a different way. Here and Now's Robin Young asked her about being known primarily as a writer for women, and Moriarty talks about how she eventually embraced that label of female fiction. That's up ahead.
This message comes from Mattress Firm. Summer nights should be refreshing, not restless. Mattress Firm has an assortment of mattresses and sleep solutions with cooling technology to help you stay comfortable all season long. Mattress Firm's sleep experts will match you with the right one because there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to sleep. Plus, you get 120 nights to try it. Love it or your money back. Get matched at Mattress Firm's 4th of July sale and sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See mattressfirm.com or store for details.
This message comes from DSW. Where'd you get those shoes? Easy, they're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour, the boots that turn grocery aisles into runways, and all the styles that show off the many sides of you. From daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between, because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Are you looking for a big, juicy summer read? We have just the ticket, though you may not want to take it on a plane, we'll explain. But if you do, it will be a lighter lift. Liane Moriarty's 500-page bestseller, Here One Moment, is now out in paperback. She's the Australian author whose books have sold over 20 million worldwide. Several, The Last Anniversary, 9 Perfect Strangers, and Big Little Lies, made into TV series, the last 2 starring fellow Australian Nicole Kidman. Kidman is now also involved in a Here One Moment adaptation. We'll see if we can get any more out of Liane. The premise of the book, something you might be doing right now. Have you ever looked around at fellow travelers and wondered, who are they? Where do they live? How about, how do they die? Sounds like a morbid question, but in Liane's hands it becomes a gripping, mystical one because her cast of characters are the fellow travelers on a flight from Tasmania to Sydney, Australia, the father missing his girl's performance in The Lion King, a distraught mom trying to keep wailing kids quiet, newlyweds in bridal attire. Suddenly, a woman gets up, walks the aisle, pointing to each passenger and pronouncing how they will die and when. Workplace accident at 43, heart attack 91, your partner will kill you 25. And then, months later, some passengers do die. The burning question, what will surviving passengers do if they think they know they're next? And what would you do? Again, Liane Moriarty's book is Here One Moment. She joins us now. Liane, hi.
Hi, that's a wonderful introduction.
Oh, thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Well, honestly, that's how I feel. You've summed up the book so beautifully.
Well, I hope so. We understand this story came from a flight you were on.
Yes, so I exactly the same as in the book. I was leaving Hobart in Tasmania and I was stuck on the tarmac and I did not have a book. That's crucial to the story, so I had nothing to read myself. And I was looking around at all the people around me and I was wondering when and how each of them were going to die. And I always look back.
Okay, hold on.
Yes,
why? Because why? Right.
I think it was a time in my life that I was considering my own mortality. So a few things had happened in the years leading up to that flight. So first of all, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. Then we had the pandemic, so all of us were considering our own mortality. And then I myself was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I think it was all those things. And I think also just being in my 50s, I think that's a time when people start to be diagnosed with serious illnesses. So I was just thinking about the fact that 100 years in the future, somebody would be able to look at all the names of the people on that flight and they would be able to see the age of death and cause of death. And I think for some reason it sort of blew my mind that that information would one day be available. It just wasn't available right now. And that's when I thought, imagine if somebody stood up and shared that information.
Yeah, what if it was available now? But was this a way for you to explore your own mortality by choosing a different way for each of these lives to end? I mean, well, what would if it would be this? And that way, through the character, you could sort of explore what that might be like.
All the different ways. Yes, because I think I was probably thinking, so breast cancer did not get me.
Thankfully.
I was treated and on my way. So it's just so interesting to think, I wonder what it will be. It's the most interesting thing. People must be so shocked. I think especially people who really focus on their own health and longevity, and then through some accident, they must be so surprised when they get wherever they're going.
Well, and that's what you explore. But Liane, really, the baby on board is told that the baby will die at the age of 7 by drowning?
I think the thing is that because it's exploring every mother's worst fear. As soon as you have a child, that is your greatest terror, and imagining. So that's what you do in fiction. Yeah. You imagine you put your characters through terrible things, and how would this young mother, if somebody told her something so dreadful, how would she respond?
Right. Or the bridal couple, that's told that an intimate partner will kill you,
Yes,
they're going to be looking sideways, give the side eye to their partner for a while. But did any of this keep you up at night? Or was it more the glee of, it's just fiction? I'm thinking, I watch Midsummer Murders, these shows on PBS where every week in a small town, people are murdered in the most horrible ways. And sometimes I think, how am I watching this? This is, if even a fraction of this happened, I'd be horrified. So which was it? Was it something that actually maybe got to your heart quite a bit? Or was it the excitement of you have a great story in your hands?
There's a little of both. When I'm writing fiction, there is glee in that this is a wonderful premise. And I also want to explore people's feelings and real emotions. But sometimes you do have to just be quite technical about it, because if I allowed myself to really feel fully what I'm putting my characters through, then I'd have to stop writing. I often think that if I had in my own life, then I could never write about them. I always remember after I wrote The Husband's Secret, where a woman's daughter is murdered, and I received some messages from mothers who had lost their children, and I was sort of overwhelmed seeing their words on the screen with something that I wrote for the purpose of entertainment. And they wrote lovely things to me to say that I got some of those things about their own feelings, that I got it right. And I was really proud that I'd done that, but also slightly ashamed that I, for entertainment, had written about something that was somebody else's horrendous reality. So yes, I can get myself really tied up in knots about that.
Well, we have to ask you about your female readers. A New York Times review of Here One Moment, which came out last year, now is coming out in paperback, pointed out that you're one of the few mainstream fiction writers to consistently center the joys and tribulations of midlife and beyond, as if turning 40 does not, in fact, compel one to dissolve into dust like a cursed mummy. But then again, sometimes your books can be relegated to beach read, chick lit. I think your publisher prefers women's fiction. So talk about your relationship with women readers.
Well, first of all, how can I answer that? Because, again, I can talk myself in circles about that. So a lot of the time my books have been described as chick lit. And I remember when I first heard that term, I thought that was just a fun, cheerful term for books that are about women, for women. And then as I wrote more, I thought, actually, it's it's sort of a dismissive term. And then I always remember a journalist saying to me once, so most of your readers are women? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, so it's okay to say that. And I said, of course it's okay to say that. That's just a fact. And she said, oh, you'd be surprised, some people don't want to say that. And that's when I realised she meant that I wouldn't want to call my books women's fiction. And I realised that's because I felt that that meant that it was something less than. If it's women's fiction, it means it's not as good as.
Look how we've been brought up. Look how we've been brought up. Yeah.
So that's when I thought, so that's my own internalized misogyny. Because if a man wrote a book and called it men's fiction, he would say, yes, I write men's fiction. And I'm very proud of it. So why am I not? And then I turned around and thought, okay, so I should embrace the term women's fiction.
And that brings us to one woman in particular, Nicole Kidman. There she is, I thought, the flight attendant, trying to serve the passengers while also searching for a tampon. And then I realized, no, Nicole Kidman is over 50, so that might not be a part she might play.
No.
But we know that she's involved, has been involved, obviously, in your past books being put on the screen and is going to be involved in Here One Moment going to the screen. Is there a part you envision for her?
I honestly can't see one right away. That often when the screenplay's written, you might lose some characters, or that there might be, and I'm not writing the screenplay myself, but there may be two characters combined, so it may end up that there'll be a role for her. But as I'm writing, I can see the characters, they're my characters. I'm not seeing anybody in particular playing them.
Yeah. We were thinking also maybe the Death Lady, who is the woman who goes down the aisle, who, by the way, we're not going to give away the ending, but there's an explanation,
There is.
for things. What about her? Just briefly, what about that woman who gets up and points her finger at everyone? What were you exploring through her?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't know who she was. I don't plan my books, so I didn't know what would be the consequences of her sharing all these predictions. I didn't know if the predictions would be accurate or not, so I just had my premise, this happens. But I loved writing the Death Lady and getting to know her through the process of writing her and coming to understand why she did what she did and who she was. So yes, I don't want to give too much away.
No.
Except that a lot of readers say they don't like her in the beginning, excuse me, and then they love her by the end, which makes me very happy.
Intriguing. Best-selling author Liane Moriarty's latest book, Here One Moment, out in paperback today, soon coming to a screen near you. Liane, thank you so much.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Robin. Thank you.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Rosetta Stone, an expert in language learning for 30 years. Right now, NPR listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership to 25 different languages for 50% off. Learn more at rosettastone.com/NPR.
This message comes from First Leaf. Summer days hit better when First Leaf takes care of the wine for you. First Leaf's short quiz figures out what you like, then delivers a summer-ready box. Bright whites, smooth reds, and chillable bubbles. No wine aisle guessing, no errands. Just personalized picks shipped to your door. Get your summer sip lineup at tryfirstleaf.com/summertime with promo summertime. Your first 6 bottles are just $44.95 and are matched exactly to your taste. That's tryfirstleaf.com/summertime with promo summertime.
This message comes from Capital One. With the Spark Cash Plus card, you earn unlimited 2% cash back on every purchase for your business. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/SparkCashPlus. Terms apply.